Last year, I met a patient who changed everything I thought I knew about aging and medicine. Her name is Dorothy. She turned 102 years old in March, and when I reviewed her chart before our first appointment, I had to read it 3 times to make sure I wasn't making a mistake. Medications, none. Not one blood pressure pill. Not one cholesterol medication. Not one pill for diabetes, arthritis, or heart disease. At 102 years old, Dorothy takes 0 prescription medications. When she walked into my office, I understood why. Her posture was straight. Her eyes were bright. Her handshake was firm. She moved like someone 20 years younger. I asked her the question that was burning in my mind. Dorothy, how is this possible? Most people half your age are taking 5 or 6 medications. What's your secret? She smiled and said something I'll never forget. Dr. Miller, I don't have a secret. I have 4 habits. I've done them every single day since I was 50 years old. And I believe they're the reason I've never needed a pill. Today I'm going to share Dorothy's 4 habits with you. These are not complicated. They don't require expensive supplements or special equipment. And the science behind them is absolutely remarkable. If you're over 60 and you want to reduce your reliance on medications, stay healthy naturally, and add years of vitality to your life, please watch this video until the very end. Let's begin with Dorothy's first habit. Every single morning, Dorothy wakes up and moves her body for at least 30 minutes. Not intense exercise, not running or heavy weight training, just movement. She walks around her neighborhood. She does gentle stretches. She tends to her small garden. She doesn't count steps or track calories. She simply makes sure that within the first 2 hours of waking up, her body has moved. This might sound too simple to matter, but the research says otherwise. A comprehensive review published in Science examined the health benefits of walking and physical activity in older adults. The findings were remarkable. Walking decreases the risk of cardiovascular disease, cerebrovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, cognitive impairment, and dementia. It improves mental well-being, sleep quality, and longevity. The study found that as few as 6,000 steps per day was associated with a significant reduction in mortality risk for adults over 60. That's less than 3 miles. That's about 30 to 40 minutes of walking at a moderate pace. But here's what makes Dorothy's approach even more powerful. A major meta-analysis published in Lancet Public Health found that for adults 60 and older, the longevity benefits of walking level off at around 6,000 to 8,000 steps per day. Beyond that, there was no additional benefit. This means Dorothy doesn't need to run marathons or spend hours at the gym. She just needs to move consistently every single day. Another study found that people who walked at a brisk pace had a 38 to 53% reduced risk of dying from cardiovascular disease compared to slow walkers. The pace matters almost as much as the duration. Dorothy told me she's been doing this since she was 50 years old. That's 52 years of daily movement. Over half a century of telling her body every single morning, we are still alive. We are still capable. We are still moving forward. 30 minutes of movement every morning. That's Dorothy's first habit. Now let's talk about her second habit. And this one surprised me. Dorothy told me that every night before bed, she spends 10 minutes doing something that makes her laugh. Sometimes she watches a funny show. Sometimes she reads jokes. Sometimes she calls her granddaughter, who always makes her giggle. When I asked her why, she said something profound. Dr. Miller, I realized a long time ago that worry is poison. It eats you from the inside. So every night I flush it out with laughter. The science confirms exactly what Dorothy discovered intuitively. Research has shown that centenarians tend to score low in neuroticism, which means they don't worry excessively about bad things that happen. They're able to deal with problems and move on. They also score high in extroversion, meaning they're open to new experiences and willing to engage with life. A landmark study from Yale University found that chronic stress literally accelerates your biological clock. People under prolonged stress age faster at the cellular level. But here's the crucial finding. Individuals who effectively manage their emotions, who practice self-control and emotional regulation, were more resilient to the effects of stress on aging. In other words, it's not about avoiding stress. It's about how you process it. A major review found that more than half of centenarians studied were not depressed and had low trait anxiety. They showed an emotional tendency to react with low anxiety intensity to stressful conditions. Their good physical health could be explained by what researchers called a positive character disposition and strong adaptability to the adversities of life. Dorothy doesn't pretend life is perfect. At 102, she's lost her husband, most of her friends, and one of her children. But she told me, "I let myself feel the sadness when it comes. Then I choose to find something to smile about. Every single day, 10 minutes of laughter before bed." That's Dorothy's second habit. Her third habit is perhaps the most powerful of all. Dorothy has never lived alone. After her husband passed away 15 years ago, she moved in with her daughter's family. She eats breakfast with her great-grandchildren before school. She has dinner with her family every night. She plays cards with her neighbors twice a week. Dorothy told me, "Dr. Miller, loneliness is more dangerous than cigarettes. I've watched people die from it. So I made a decision. I will never be lonely, not if I can help it." The research backs her up completely. A meta-analysis covering more than 300,000 participants found that people with strong social networks have a 50% greater chance of survival compared to those with weak social connections. The researchers concluded that the effect of social isolation on mortality risk is comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Another study found that social isolation increases the risk of premature death from all causes at a rate that rivals smoking, obesity, and physical inactivity. 1 in 4 adults over 65 is considered socially isolated, and the health consequences are devastating. A study from UCLA and USC found something extraordinary. They examined DNA markers of aging and discovered that older adults with the most supportive relationships with spouses, children, family members, and friends were aging 1 to 2 years slower biologically than those who lacked such connections. Let me repeat that. Strong social bonds literally slow down the biological aging process at the cellular level. Harvard's 80-year study of adult development, one of the longest-running studies of human health ever conducted, reached this conclusion. The strongest predictor of a long and healthy life is not cholesterol levels, not blood pressure, not even genetics. It's the quality of your relationships. As Dr. Robert Waldinger, the director of that study, put it, people who are more socially connected to family, to friends, to community, are happier, healthier, and live longer. Dorothy understood this without reading a single study. She built her life around connection, and at 102, she's still surrounded by people who love her. Daily connection with people who matter. That's Dorothy's third habit. Now let's talk about her fourth and final habit. Dorothy eats the same breakfast every single day. A small bowl of oatmeal with berries, a handful of walnuts, and a cup of tea. She eats a moderate lunch, usually with vegetables and some type of beans or fish. And she eats her smallest meal of the day at dinner, finishing by 6 p.m. But here's what makes Dorothy's approach different. She told me, "Dr. Miller, I always leave the table a little bit hungry. My mother taught me that. She said a full belly makes a tired mind." This ancient wisdom is confirmed by modern science. A systematic review of centenarian diets found that they typically ate balanced, diverse diets, with 57 to 65% of energy from carbohydrates, 12 to 32% from protein, and moderate fat. They preferred low-salt foods. They ate plenty of whole grains, vegetables, fruits, legumes, and fish. Red meat was consumed sparingly, but perhaps most importantly, centenarians practiced what researchers call caloric moderation. They didn't overeat. The Okinawan centenarians in Japan follow a principle called hara-hachi-bu, which means eating until you're 80% full. They leave the table before they feel stuffed. Research on caloric restriction has shown that reducing calorie intake without malnutrition is associated with improved metabolic markers, reduced inflammation, and longer lifespan in multiple species. While extreme restriction isn't practical or safe for most humans, moderate caloric intake appears to be a consistent pattern among the world's longest-lived people. A review found that centenarians took an average of 4.6 medications, compared to 6.7 medications for non-centenarians. This lower medication use likely reflects fewer chronic conditions, which is directly tied to diet, exercise, and lifestyle habits maintained over decades. Dorothy doesn't count calories. She doesn't follow complicated diets. She simply eats real food, in moderate amounts at consistent times. And she never ever stuffs herself. Moderate eating with no overfilling. That's Dorothy's fourth habit. Now, let me put all four habits together for you. Every morning, Dorothy moves her body for at least 30 minutes. Walking, stretching, gardening. Simple movement that keeps her cardiovascular system healthy and her muscles strong. Every night, she spends 10 minutes finding something to laugh about. This flushes stress from her system and keeps her emotional health resilient. Every day, she connects with people who matter. Family, friends, neighbors. She never allows herself to become isolated. And at every meal, she eats real food in moderate amounts, leaving the table before she feels full. 4 habits, done consistently for 52 years. Here's what Dorothy told me at the end of our conversation. She said, "Dr. Miller, I've watched so many people my age give up. They stop moving. They stop laughing. They stop seeing friends. They eat too much and sit too long. And then they wonder why they need 10 pills just to get through the day." Then she said, "I decided a long time ago that I would not live that way. I would keep moving, keep laughing, keep loving, and keep eating like a human being, not like a machine. And here I am at 102, still taking 0 pills. I want to be clear about something. Dorothy is not typical. She may have genetic advantages that protect her health in ways we don't fully understand. Not everyone who follows these habits will live to 102 or avoid all medications. But the science is undeniable. Daily movement, stress management, social connection, and moderate eating are the 4 pillars that consistently appear in longevity research. They show up in blue zones. They show up in centenarian studies. They show up in every major analysis of what keeps people healthy as they age. If you're watching this and you're over 60, I want you to ask yourself, which of Dorothy's 4 habits am I already doing? And which one am I missing? Start with 1. Build it into your daily routine, then add another. Small changes done consistently lead to extraordinary results. You may not live to 102, but you might live to 80 or 85 or 90 with more energy, fewer medications, and more joy than you ever thought possible. If you learned something valuable today, please subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. I release new videos every week designed specifically for adults over 60 who want to live longer, healthier, and more vibrant lives. Share this video with someone you love, because the people we care about deserve to know these secrets. Leave a comment below with the word Dorothy if you're going to try at least one of her habits starting today. I read every comment, and I'd love to hear which one you're choosing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself. Medical disclaimer. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Never stop or change your medications without consulting your healthcare provider first.